Hello and happy new year. So, we've just started 2020 and I'm very excited to introduce a new thing that I would like to do on this channel, and that is interviews with authors. It'll be interviews with indie authors and traditional authors if we can find some to come on here. And the point is to connect the readers with the authors and just bring the stories out alive and maybe introduce more stories to more people who would like to read them. So with my first Monday video of the year, I was blessed with the opportunity to interview YA horror author Villimey Mist. So without further ado, I hope you will enjoy this interview and go buy your books. Link description below. Go check her out. Hello everybody, my name is Ian Kirkpatrick and welcome back, and welcome to the new year. Today I'm honored to introduce the first indie author interview to the channel. Villimey Mist is a YA author from Iceland and a lover of the spooky. Horror, murder mystery, fantasy, and the paranormal are all in her corner. She debuted in December of 2018 with her YA horror novel, Nocturnal Blood, the first novel in her Nocturnal Series, a series featuring vampires in Alaska and a road trip out of Alaska. Currently, she's writing the second novel in the Nocturnal series, Nocturnal Farm, which is actually due to release this month, right? I've been checking up on that to make sure. Currently, apart from authoring stories of the cold, dark, and creepy, she's also an artist. With her Instagram will be linked below, and she runs a blog, sometimes spotlighting different indie authors and sharing some of her favorite mythologies from time to time. So thank you so much for joining me today, Villimey Mist.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So aside from all of that, because when I was reading your book, I obviously noticed all of the gore and all of the spooky, and you're really into the spooky. Is there anything that I left out that people should know about you to get a good feel for your personality?
Oh, well, I'm not sure if I managed to put any humor in the book, but I do love humor. And I think a lot of people have said that I have a good sense of humor. I can't really pinpoint it myself, though. It's just like if people laugh at my jokes, I'm like, oh, okay, then I must be funny then.
That's the best kind of humor, when it's kind of just flat and people don't know if you're joking or not.
Yeah.
I get it. So Nocturnal Blood is your debut book, and it's the first in the series. How would you describe the story of it?
So basically, it is kind of like the typical traditional coming of age story.
Mm-hmm.
So the main character, Leia Walker, she is at the beginning a really timid little girl. Well, I wouldn't say little, she's 19. But she, suffers from anxiety and OCD, and she's been bullied for it for almost her entire life. And it kind of changed when she met her best friend in school, Sophie Gardner.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, that changed when Sophie moved away, much to Leia's chagrin. But she meets her again 4 years afterwards. But you notice that she has changed, Sophie. She has become, a vampire.
Mm-hmm.
And dealing with that is kind of hard for Leia because, as a person with anxiety myself, change can be hard.
Mm-hmm.
But it really takes a terrifying turn when Sophie forces her to go and run away with her because of something that she did. I won't really spoil it too much,
Mm-hmm.
but you kind of have to read the book. But it's interesting though. It kind of affects into the whole vampire world that I created.
And that's the really fun part. When I was getting to know that it was vampire, my favorite thing is always to see the different takes that people have for vampires, because there's always a little bit of the old, a little bit of the new, and then a little bit of personal creativity in it. So getting to know your personal vampire lore through the story was really fun.
Thanks, I'm glad to hear that.
Do you know how many books are going to be in the series?
There are, I think I have planned for the storyline with Leia at least 2 books. So Nocturnal Farm and book 3 that I'm already started plotting already. But I'm also planning on doing a prequel
Oh,
It's
cool.
either it's either gonna be just a prequel novel or a duology starring Sophie. So when Sophie is a newborn vampire, and we kind of get to see into her life and the 4 years that she was apart from Leia.
Okay, that would be really interesting. Have you been surprised by any part of the process as you've been going through the debut or when you were writing your first novel?
Well, yeah. A lot of people are saying that, it takes time. Because this story has been in my head for like almost 10 years now. It was really easy for me to let it out on the page once I started writing, once I got the support and the motivation to do that. Also regarding the debut process and, going indie, it really surprised me, and it takes a lot out of me that I have to do all the marketing myself.
I hear that it's
So
really not that different in traditional publishing either, as a traditional publisher will do a bit of the marketing, but it's still really up to you to get your name out there.
yeah, that's what I heard as well. But it's really hard because well, online I might seem that I have a huge confidence, and I'm like, yeah, I can speak my mind and everything. But sometimes I get really unnerved about going like, hey, here's my book. It's interesting. Want to read it?
You should read it. Yeah, that's one of the
So
harder things to learn how to do, too.
yeah, so I might need to step up on my marketing skills when it comes to that.
There's that interesting thing where everybody imagines writing as being this introverted, you do it by yourself kind of thing. But then once you actually create the book, it really forces you to be extroverted in order to share it. So it stops being a singular person thing.
Yep.
And nobody prepares you for that part.
No, not really. Unless you've taken theater class or something like that, then you're probably more prepared than I am.
It's funny that you say that because I studied theater in undergraduate.
Oh, that's nice.
And I do recommend that authors do a theater class if they can find it in town.
I actually did a little bit of theater when I was in high school,
Oh, that's
so I have
awesome.
that. Yeah,
It helps out a lot.
it really does.
Well, and so one of the things when I was looking into this book is there aren't many books that are actually set in Alaska. Even writers in America don't really set stuff in Alaska. What made you choose Alaska for the setting, and then you picked somewhere remote like Toke? You picked somewhere like Toke to send them.
Well, I was really inspired by 30 Days of Night. Have you read the comic?
I have not read the comic.
Well, there's also a movie. It's basically there is this one remote location somewhere in Alaska when there's gonna be night or like complete darkness for 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
And in that book, of course, there were vampires like, hey, that's our chance. Let's just, invade that village and just eat everyone. And well, Alaska and Iceland, they have a similar climate. So we actually have, especially now, it sucks. But we, I think, have about 4.5 hours of sunlight at this time.
I know that
So
life.
I, yeah, seasonal affective disorder is really, really bad. But I decided to, because the climate was so similar to Iceland, I wanted to have it similar, like in Alaska. Because a lot of people have been asking me, like, why didn't you base it in Iceland? And I'm like, well, it's a tiny ass island in the middle of nowhere. And my story really revolves around running away and hiding.
Yeah, being.
And
Sorry.
it's no problem. And in Iceland, there are not many places where you can hide.
Being
You
marooned on
can't
an
really,
island
yeah,
doesn't
you
seem
can't.
really helpful to running away.
No, especially and also, the population of Iceland is 350,000 people,
Oof.
and they'll be like everyone knows everyone, so it wouldn't really work.
Yeah. Okay.
So Alaska became my destination.
Yeah, there's a lot more movement available down up there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And so, in doing this novel, have you ever been to Alaska, or what kind of preparation did you do in order to set it there? Did you do any specific targeted research? Did you talk to people?
Yeah, I both did a little bit of research, and while I was working at the National Museum of Iceland, I was actually writing the book while I was working there. I met a lot of people, all over the country while being a tour guide. And I met a person who was from Anchorage, Alaska. So I managed to get a little bit of information from him that really helped me out.
Oh, awesome. What was the hardest part for you to write for your story? The beginning, the middle, or the end?
For me, it was the middle. I kind of knew how the beginning was gonna be, and I definitely knew how the ending was gonna be. But writing that in between, like, okay, this is a fast-paced kind of novel. I mean, everything is happening. They are on the run, and I need to find something interesting for them, to happen to them.
Mm-hmm.
So I really had to think hard on what kind of conflict and what kind of trouble they would have to go through while reaching their destination.
And there was some really interesting dilemmas that happened in the center.
Yeah.
Your Twitter says that Nocturnal Blood is a modern vampire story that takes the reader on a journey of twists and turns. It's haunting examination of trust and friendship, how one person is willing to do anything for their friend, and it specifically says it's bloody, gory, and emotional. What interests you so much about horror and guts?
I think I've been raised by that since I was a child. My older brother, he's 6 years older than me. He is a huge horror fan. So, and of course, looking up to my older brother, I wanted to do the same. So, whenever he was watching horror movies, I would always, creep behind the couch and watch it with him in secret.
Oh, did you ever get nightmares when you watched it when you were younger?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm still traumatized by watching Aliens.
Okay.
So, I'm on 32 now and I still get freaking nightmares about the goddamn xenomorph. Awful.
Well, that's the risk that we take sneaking scary movies. My brother used to get freaked out when he would hear the spooky music underneath in the backgrounds of stuff. So like
Oh
he
yeah.
would be in another room completely as a kid, but if he heard the scary movie music, he would get freaked out.
Oh yeah. One of my coping mechanisms, if I don't want to be super scared, I actually cover my ears because the music really does number to you.
It really does. How much of the Nocturnal series do you already have figured out, and how much do you have left to discover? Like, how much planning do you do, and how much discovery once you're in the pages?
Well, Nocturnal Farm is, of course, pretty much finished,
Mm-hmm.
so I had that all figured out. But it's really hard to maneuver this camera. But as for book three, I have plotted everything down, so each by chapter. But there are things that I still need to work out a little bit for this individual chapter to work out.
Okay.
And I still haven't I have noted down wrote down some notes for the prequels, but it's not completely ready yet. Yeah, it's just I don't really want what happens to Sophie when she's a newborn to be similar as to what's happening in Nocturnal Blood.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get it a little bit different.
When you started writing Nocturnal Blood, did you know that one of the main themes would be the friendship and sacrifice between Leia and Sophie? Or was that something that came up as you started writing the story?
It just really came up as I was writing the story. It just really, what I really started when I had this idea was just, you know, the relationship between, if there would be any relationship between a creature like that and a normal human. I remember when I was reading Darren Shan's vampire books, the Serp to Freak series.
Mm-hmm.
There was one scene in which Darren, he was hiding his true self being a vampire. And when one of his schoolmates found out, he thought he would, accept him, but the schoolmate just ran out in fear. And I really liked that dynamic because that was authentic, it was realistic.
Mm-hmm.
So I had that kind of idea to put that into my story as well. Like how, I mean, because this Leia is, she really, really wants a friend. She had someone to trust, which was Sophie, and she's now kind of willing to gamble everything to see if she can still trust her.
Mm-hmm. And she does have that reaction too. That got played with a lot, with the
Oh yeah.
morality and the predatory nature of vampires. I always appreciate an author that keeps vampires predatory.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I usually tell people when I say I'm writing a vampire story, I completely say it's not Twilight.
That's just Twilight just neutered the vampires.
Yeah, and usually just people associate vampires with, the paranormal and the romance, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, that's not how I've pictured vampires at all. They're always going to be something that will haunt you in the night and potentially kill you.
And I love that about your take on the vampires. Was there anything that drew you to vampires specifically? There are a lot of monsters and there are a lot of mythologies, but what brought you to vampires? Was it their casual, sexy allure, or
I think it's just started when I first read Bram Stoker's Dracula. Just the mystery behind the man and how, whether he was he evil? Was he just doing something for the fun of it? Or was there some kind of motive behind it? And how the people, the regular humans, just were on their way on discovering what he was. And I found that really intriguing.
okay? What are some of your favorite books? I
My
mean,
favorite
obviously
book,
Dracula.
yeah, yeah, definitely Dracula. Um, Harry Potter, of course. Otherwise, I wouldn't be wearing anything or having a lot of the memorabilia about that. Um, I also really love His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman,
Okay.
mainly because it has a lot of because it's a children's story, but it has a lot of grown-up questions that I read when I was a child, and I really appreciate it because it didn't really look down on children.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that in youth novels too. The talking,
Yeah,
not doing the talking down thing.
yeah, and I also, as I mentioned, I really like Darren Chan's vampire books.
Okay. Is there anything that will make you put a book down if you're reading it? Like you just can't finish it or you can't continue reading it.
Yeah, if the main character is like a Mary Sue type, was basically as or is basically a self-insert character
Mm-hmm.
that is too perfect.
I,
I really enjoy characters that are deeply flawed
okay.
because there is at some level you can relate to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 'cause
But
we,
if a character is super perfect, then I'm like, nope, this is not going to be interesting.
yeah, there's nowhere for it to go.
No, exactly.
Are there any tropes that you would like to tropes or trends that you'd like to see come back into popularity in the book marketplace? Because we know
I think
everything
that,
swings in and swings out.
yeah, well, I haven't really tried it myself, but I really want more a sibling dynamic.
More sibling dynamics, yeah.
Yeah,
That
because
there's
there's so much of this, if the main character is either male or female, and he has like a person that is tagging along with him, there's always like this trope that they have to, end up together at the end of the novel.
mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, it doesn't necessarily have to be like that. Platonic relationship are also really good. So I'd
Okay.
love to see that and the sibling dynamic.
Okay. Have you ever written anything that you were kind of afraid to put out there? Maybe seeing what your friends or family might think as responses to the super dark subject matter, or some sexy stuff, or some tragic stuff.
No, haven't done that yet.
Okay.
That might probably happen in the foreseeable future.
What's been the best compliment you've received as an author?
Basically, that people say that I'm a gifted writer.
That's always a
That's
good feeling.
Yeah, that's really nice. So I'm happy to hear that, and it really keeps me going.
Most authors are afraid of the day that they receive a little bit of negative feedback or if someone says that they didn't like the story. And everyone gets them, even Shakespeare has haters. Have you ever received a harder comment on your work, and what was it?
Well, one of the things that I've received is that, the wording of the novel was clunky and awkward. I mean, I can understand that. I mean, my native language is not English, it's
Mm
Icelandic. So, at first I was like, it hurt me because I'm like, but my English is pretty good though.
hmm.
All right.
Well, if it helps
But
at all, I've read plenty of books by native English speakers, and I didn't understand the rhythm of their writing until I spoke to them in person because they write exactly like they talk. And then once you talk to them, you catch where all those pauses actually are in their natural speech.
yeah, that happened.
um, what do you do when what do you do to get out of a rut when you're stuck writing?
Well, I try to move on to other things. I usually try to read something else or watch something else. I watch a lot of TV and a lot of Netflix, or I try to distract my mind by drawing or something like that. That usually helps.
Okay. Sometimes when an author uses a well-known lore, they add spice to their own to it, like we mentioned before. And with vampires, we know that Twilight made them sparkle. With Dracula, the author made them a ghost, and in V Wars by Jonathan Mayberry, he's made it a virus. Did you play around with any of the vampire lore and mythology? And is there anything that you added of your own that you can share?
Yeah. Well, I used a lot of the old things, like for example, that a vampire can't enter a person's house without getting permission. I will dwell more on that in book three.
Okay.
And the one that I invented was that if a vampire gets hurt or is really, really hungry, they enter a state called the feral state. And that is when their eyes turn completely black and they kind of become this ravenous creatures that just will attack anyone and anything until they get their, food.
And that's a good plot device too to move stuff and create tension.
Yeah.
So no spoilers, but do you have a favorite scene or moment in Nocturnal Blood or the Nocturnal series as a whole?
There are two scenes. One is kind of spoilery. It is the one where I can just basically say that where Leia is wielding a shovel.
Okay.
And the other is basically all the moments where Leia and Sophie get to bond a little bit. So they are healing their relationship again.
And anybody that wants to know what the shovel means, you have to go read the book.
Oh,
I know what it means, but you gotta go read the book. So I'm gonna name a couple of vampire series or authors, and I just want you to say yay or nay, or if you've never heard of them. Like if you like them, if you don't like them, or if you've just never heard of them.
okay,
So,
okay.
I'm going to start off easy with Dracula.
Yay.
Not Nosferatu.
Yay.
Anne Rice's Alucard.
Nay. I've only read Interview with the Vampire.
I think Alucard is a character that's just in her stories.
Yeah, well, I've only gone to her, only read the first novel.
Okay.
So that's still on my TBR list.
Twilight.
Nay.
True Blood.
Hard nay.
True Blood.
Yay.
V Wars.
Nay, I haven't. It's on my TBR list, and it's also on my watch list.
I was
There's
gonna-
so many things I need
I
to
was going to
watch.
say, V Wars just came out on Netflix with a TV series, too.
I know. It's definitely something that I need to watch. For now, I think we haven't gotten to The Witcher yet. So.
Oh, stuff's just piling up now.
Oh yeah.
Vampire Diaries.
Nay.
Vampire Academy.
Nay.
My mom's date with a vampire.
Nay.
That was like a movie back in the 90s, a Disney movie back in the 90s.
Okay.
I didn't know if you.
That completely flew across me because I don't think it was probably aired in Iceland.
The Little Vampire.
Yay.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yay.
Van Helsing.
Oh yay.
And then the last one on this list is Nocturnal Blood.
Yay.
So then, thank you so much for the interview. Where can people find you?
They can find me on my Instagram. My Instagram handle is fangs.and.light. It's basically regarding my art where I draw my characters from the Nocturnal Blood series, including other characters that I've been creating since I was a child. And in between, I try to put like a original watercolor drawings or fan art, although I'm not really good at it. You can also find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Villimey S with a big S, a capital S. And then I have a website / blog that is villimeymistauthor.com.
Awesome. And all of those will be linked in the description below so that you can find her on your own and drop over and say hi. Thank you again so much for joining Villimey, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
And-
Glädligt nytt år.
And
Thanks so
happy
much for having me.
and happy book launch. I want to see I want to see Nocturnal Farms explode this month as it sets off.
I really, really hope so. Thank you.